Do you want to turn your study permit into permanent residency? In this video, I will be breaking down the steps you need to take to go from study permit to permanent residency. In this video, I will be talking about going from study permit to work permit and postgraduate work permit and why postgraduate work permit is so important. I will also be talking about express entry as it relates to federal skilled worker, federal skilled trade. I will also be talking about the Canadian experience class as it relates to express entry. I will also be talking about provincial nomination and also the common mistakes that are made as an international student. So if that interests you, definitely keep on watching. Let's first talk about studying and then afterwards going into getting your postgraduate work permit. Now, postgraduate work permit differs based on what program you did, what school you chose. Now there are new rules as it relates to PGWP, and I'll break that down in another video. But not every international student can get a PGWP. There are specific programs that will allow you to be able to work in Canada after studies. Now, if you don't know what PGWP is postgraduate work permit. And that is a work permit given to persons who graduate from college or university in Canada and is given to international students to stay here and get some work experience before going back home. Now with PGWP, the old rule is that there were schools that offers PGWP, and once you were in a designated learning institution, you could apply for PGWP. However, now the eligibility has changed and the program also matters. So the program that you do in school is important to decide if you are eligible for PGWP. Now, why is PGWP important? It is important because PGWP is what allows you to get Canadian work experience. Canadian work experience is extremely valuable in Canada when you want to become a permanent resident. Now, there are different pathways where you don't need that work experience, but ultimately, if you want to increase the number of different ways you can immigrate, with PGWP, it allows you to move on from studying to getting that work experience that allows you to become permanent resident. Now, studying in Canada is not a direct pathway to permanent residency. However, studying in Canada does allow you to have access to a lot more programs that are available for permanent residency. If you would like to know the different programs that are available to ensure that you become eligible to pursue PGWP, I will leave a link down below of the list of programs that you need to be a part of. However, there is also different caveats, like you need to ensure that you are choosing a course within your field. So you can't just choose a random course and say I'm going to come to Canada and pursue that course because that's the one with PGWP. So those are some of the difficulties of choosing a program, but without that work experience, you wouldn't be able to move on to permanent residency. There's another way that you can get work experience in Canada. The only thing is that it needs to come together as 1 year of work experience. Now, this is the 24 hours that you get to work in Canada. With these hours working in Canada, you can work those hours and it amount to 1 year of work experience if you are doing a 4-year program or a 3-year program. Even with a 2-year program, you could try to add up the hours. There are specific amount of hours you need to amount to with part-time work, and you also need to be in the right jobs. So choosing the right job is very, very important. Now, when you first come to Canada, it is a tendency that immigrants have, or it is just an automated thing because that's the only thing you can get, where you go in any job that is available. I would 100% say yes, go into any job that is available. However, while you're in that job, you should try to find a job in the right tiers. Now, what are tiers? Now, tiers, TEER, outlines the different jobs and categorize different jobs. Jobs are broken down into tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and tier 5. The upper level jobs are tier 1. Most programs accept persons in tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 only. They don't accept persons in tier 4 and tier 5. However, the tendency is that the jobs that tend to be available in Canada is tier 4 and tier 5. Like the jobs that you can get very quickly. Now, express entry is broken down into 3 sections: federal skilled trade, federal skilled worker, and Canadian experience class. Express entry is a fast way to travel to Canada. It is a process that is expedited, where you go through the process within 6 months, and after 6 months you have permanent residency in Canada. There are 2 programs that are available for everyone who is outside and inside of Canada combined. In total, there are 3 programs, but 2 of them is available to people outside of Canada. The 2 programs that are available outside of Canada is the Federal Skilled Trade and the Federal Skilled Worker Program. Now, with those 2, because it is open to the entire world, it is dominated significantly by persons outside of Canada. Now, when I do this video, I am talking to 2 people. I'm talking to people inside of Canada and people outside of Canada. Now, the Federal Skilled Trade Program and the Federal Skilled Worker Program is a points-based system. People who goes on top with the most amount of points is based on your age, education, work experience, language ability. People who are in their 20s would rank higher in age, and you need to ultimately rank in all sections high to get a high score. Scores are very important because they choose people who are on top. The people who are on the bottom, they tend to not get selected, and there's a pool of people. So ultimately, the goal is that you want to be on top. How do you get on top? It is based on your work experience. So you need to have at least 5 to 10 years of work experience. You will need to be in the right age group, in your 20s or early 30s, to have a higher score. Then on top of that, you also need high level of education, which means the persons who are becoming permanent residents and getting out of the pool are people with a lot of work experience, and then people with master's degree already. Master's degree are the people who would be on top automatically because they tend to have their masters and they are working, and it's a large number of people who have those things. The 4th one is English ability. Your ability to speak English, and it's also your ability to speak French. Both languages can give you points. Let's move on to the Canadian experience class. I'm going to go in more details about Federal Skilled Trade Program and Federal Skilled Worker Program in other videos, but for this video, I'm just breaking down the different pathways available for students. So you finish university and it is time to apply to permanent residency, and this is when you begin to think about permanent residency. Wrong. If you want to become a permanent resident in Canada, you need to be thinking about permanent residency the day you decide that you would like to become a permanent resident in Canada. This is because you need to be making plans towards being able to be eligible for the programs that are available in Canada. So you need to be thinking about permanent residency long before you graduate. This is because you need to work on being eligible for the programs. So this is a proactive way of looking at becoming a permanent resident. What most people have told me is they are not thinking about permanent residency now. They are going to wait and then figure out all of that when they finish school. No. But ultimately, the only thing you need to know about permanent residency is just the eligibility. That's all I need you to look up. You need to figure out the eligibility for each program and figure out which program you would like to apply to. Once you're aware of that, then that is all you need to know about permanent residency for now. Canadian Experience Class. Canadian Experience Class is pretty much for persons in Canada. So persons who are inside of Canada who has Canadian experience, they are the persons this pathway is targeted to. This is why if you were a student, it is good to look at the eligibility while being a student, especially if you're in school for 3 to 4 years and become eligible for this program. Now, how do you become eligible for this program? To become eligible, the main thing that I would want you to focus on while you're in school is to get a job in Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3. Once you have a job in Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3, you can almost guarantee that you will be eligible. Now, you will need to also work towards getting the right amount of hours, and that is the main one that I would want you to focus on. Because if you have the work experience, you have so much opportunities to become permanent resident when you graduate. It is good to get experience in these exact fields. Now, the Canadian Experience Class is one of the easiest pathways because you are not competing against the entire world. You're just competing against people who are inside of Canada. So that makes Canadian Experience Class one of the easiest pathways in Canada, because you're just competing against people with work experience who are right here in the country. Now, this one is also a points-based system. With the points-based system, you are going to need to rank as high as possible. This leads me into the next program, Provincial Nomination. Provincial nomination is different from province to province. What you should know is that provincial nomination is how you can stand out even if you don't have high level of education, you don't have a lot of work experience or a tier that is high, if you don't have good language ability, if you're not in like the peak age group that Canada is looking for. This is where provincial nomination just answers all your prayers. Provincial nomination is there for persons who would like to stay into the province that they are being nominated to. This is where the province tells the federal government, that is the government of Canada, that they want you. If the province tells Canada that they want you, that places you at high priority. Once you get provincial nomination at this time, you can guarantee that you will get through once you have the right paperwork. Now, as I speak about the right paperwork, I have created a full guide where I have broken down the different steps to become a permanent resident in Canada, and it includes all things about everything that you need for education, assessment, all the steps, everything you need would be broken down into that guide. That guide is a bullet point guide that I have created, and it is down in the description box below. I have linked it down there. You can download that guide and it will walk you through the whole process of permanent residency. So if you're interested in that, definitely grab the guide down below. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you aren't subscribed already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!